Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a post-match pint in association with Purity Ale. If you want to get 10% off Purity Ale, then use the code #VillaView. The code in the top of the screen is wrong, of course, because Adam Bates is the producer. So why on earth would it be correct? I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Neil Dunworth. Oh, apparently both codes work, actually. So factually, he's right as well. We're both right. I apologise, Adam. Joined by Neil, as I say, to talk through Liverpool 1. Aston Villa 1. My voice was a bit suspect this morning from the away end, but it seems to be just about coming back now. I'm going to start, Neil, by making a bit of a sweeping statement to you. First I'll ask you how you are, because that's polite when you're on a video. How are you now?
I'm good. My heart rate has finally gotten down. If anybody watched my post-match when I went live almost at the final whistle, I was beetroot red. I was fearing of an initial demise, to be honest with you, from some coronary-related antics. But I don't know. I just got so emotionally involved in that game yesterday. I don't know what happened. But I'm okay again. I haven't died. Good. So that's always. I'm led to believe that's a positive when you don't die.
Yeah, 20 past 9 at night when you're still alive. That's a good thing. I would say I did not enjoy the 10 minutes of stoppage time in the away end at all. It literally felt like about 10 years scenes of the playoff final again. For me, it was back to that. How many minutes was that in the playoff final? That was more than 10, wasn't it? Or was it less than 10? But that 10 minutes yesterday anyway felt like it was about 10 days. It really did. It was horrible, especially when they'd equalised, and then you find out there's 10 minutes of stoppage time straight after. Got to be honest, at that point, I'd probably resign myself that we would concede again, because that's just the way football normally works, but not this Aston Villa team under Unai Emery, although I guess we did concede late, so some things never change. With Villa, my sweeping statement that I was going to make is that I was even saying at 1-0, 85 minutes to the people sitting around me, if we get a point now, it's still a brilliant point, and I stand by that. I think that point yesterday, I think that's vital, and I think that point may well do it. I think the point yesterday may get us into Europe, because I just think now Spurs are behind us, and we've got to worry a bit about Brentford as well, in fairness, but now Spurs are behind us. Their players don't, and their fans do not want to be in the Europa Conference League. So now they're not in the Europa Conference League positions. I actually think I'd almost guarantee they'll lose their last game to Crystal Palace. Is it Crystal Palace?
Leeds, even worse. Leeds have to win.
Sorry. Yeah, Tottenham are on the beach. They do not want to play that last game of the season. They do not want the Europa Conference League. I just think that point yesterday, edging ourselves ahead of Spurs, I think that's a crucial point, and I would back us to beat anyone at home at the moment, such as our home form, 6 wins in a row, only 1 goal conceded. So I just think, even though, yes, we conceded late, I think that's huge. And in my mind, I think that's going to do it. I think you might feel differently, but that's just what I think.
I think the stars have aligned for us with that point yesterday. Like, obviously a win. I think if we got a win yesterday, we're sailing. I don't think. Yeah. I think ourselves and our Brighton are getting pilloried on TalkSport and in Sky Sports afterwards for the drabbest 0-0 draw. People will be calling it a fix, and who cares? That's what I think happens if we win yesterday. I still think that the stars have aligned for us with regards to that draw anyway, because Brighton go out today, they win 3-1 against Southampton, I think. By the way, they've got quite a good player up there, that Evan Ferguson. If anybody hasn't ever,
he's good.
Thank God we capped him. An Irish got an Irish.
It doesn't help when the rest of your team's not very good though now.
well, it doesn't really matter. Look, but we might hire Southgate, and then he just funnel everything through him. But no, like with Brighton winning today, we can't catch Brighton unless there's a 16-goal swing in the game. We can't catch Brighton. Brighton, I think, most likely won't beat Man City during the week. And I think then it comes down to Brighton being stuck in 6th regardless, us going and Brighton coming to Villa Park, and Villa having something to play for. I'm not going to say Brighton are going to be on the beach, but like, what can Brighton do? What player wants to go in and get injured in the last game of the season when they can't elevate themselves up the league anymore?
Technically, they're always on the beach as well. technically.
That was my joke, and I forgot to follow through with
it. You cross them in there, I'll knock them in.
Exactly.
That's how we work.
I'm Douglas Louise. You can be Jacob Ramsey because, if my setups of jokes are as good as his cross for the goal for Jacob Ramsey,
He was good yesterday. I just think, like I say, I would back us to beat anyone at home, and I think when the atmosphere is gonna be through the roof, like I know it will be next weekend, I just think it will be. I think the fans would carry the team through, and Unai Emery is a specialist at one-off games, and now next week it becomes a one-off game. So like you say, the stars have somewhat aligned. Spurs losing to Brentford yesterday and us picking up something to take us ahead of them. I just think that's absolutely huge for a number of reasons, and I think yesterday's point will be the one that takes us into the Europa Conference League come the end of this time next week. I guess we'll know whether we're in Europe or not. But it was a good performance from Villa yesterday at Anfield, especially in the first half. Neil just shows what we're all about. In years gone by, we go to Anfield and be overawed and get turned over. But in that first half, I felt Villa had it again. I use the word control a lot on podcasts nowadays. I felt like Villa were pretty much in control of what was happening in that game, picking the right moments to go forward, looking resolute. It was nice to score straight after we missed the penalty, and we'll try and go through the game chronologically. Although I will admit I had a few beers in the away end yesterday, so I'm not sure I remember it all fully, but I'll try and remember it as best I can. I guess we start with that penalty then Neil. So a lovely ball from McGinn. Some of our players passing and movement and just one touch passing and whatnot at the moment is just incredible. And these were the kind of moves we just weren't seeing at the start of the season. And you wonder whether the players have got it in their locker. That sweeping, well, you wondered at the time, sorry, whether they got it in their locker. That sweeping pass from McGinn to Watkins, he doesn't have to break his stride. It's perfect. It's 100% a penalty. Unfortunately, he hasn't tucked it away. Ollie Watkins going through a little bit of a dry spell off the back of a wonderful second half of the season. Feel sorry for him because you can see he's desperate to start putting the ball in the back of the net again. Hopefully it starts again for him next week against Brighton. It's a definite penalty, but that move, I just think Villa were playing in a certain way, picking the moments to come forward, and the way they just turn transition into attack seamlessly. They're the kind of things we love seeing under Unai Emery from this side.
Yeah, and you mentioned that. I 100% agree. And what I think has happened with Aston Villa is that under Unai Emery, we've understood, I suppose, where we can drag players around to. Okay, I might actually start again because I was about 3 sentences ahead in my mind there because I can hear a child crying somewhere in my house, in this house that I'm squatting in at the moment. So what I mean by this is the structure of this team out of possession. When we win the ball back, I think that there's designated spaces that we know that we can play the ball into where players lurk around where they can get onto the ball, okay? And if you look at this, if you look at countless amount of time since Unai Emery has taken over, you'll see the old Thierry Henry position where Watkins pulls out there onto the left, brings the centre half with him when we're out of possession. We pull out there to the left. Alexander-Arnold was gone into midfield. Curtis Jones was attacking there as that wider midfielder. And then when that ball comes to McGinn and plays that ball, a sweeping ball over the top, Watkins is there, and it's a ball into space. It's a ball into an area that he knows.
It's the area that Alexander-Arnold's vacated as well.
Exactly.
Isn't it? You just always felt that might be something that Watkins would exploit him for that moment. He did.
And you want to have Konate coming out there to you. You want to have a big Konate that's coming out there as opposed to Van Dijk. And that's what happened. And Watkins just comes across him like every good striker. It's a definite penalty. I think 100%. In real time I went, that's coming back for a touch. And then when VAR, it was 100% penalty. Like, it was 100% a penalty. There's no queries in that one. And then I want to talk to you, actually, Dan, I'm going to ask you a question. What did you make of because I had a hypothesis about John McGinn growing into the armband and becoming I suppose more of a leader within the team. And we saw it previously, and it's funny because Ashley Preece, I think, mentioned something in an article in the Birmingham Mail today as well, and that was actually, I think, his final game today. So I don't even know is he going to be at Brighton, but so McGinn picks up the ball and he settles it and keeps everybody guessing as to who's going to be the penalty taker. I know we all knew it was going to be Watkins anyway, whether we agree with it or not. I personally, don't think he should be the penalty taker. I didn't think before he took the penalty. So
Scored
it's
his last
not.
one, didn't he? I guess so. But he
He
was on a
did.
real hot run of form. I didn't fancy him. If I'm being honest, I didn't fancy him to score because it's been 5 or 6 games now without
5
a goal.
games now. Yeah.
What was the question you're going to ask me? Sorry.
The question was, we've seen Ashley Young do that before. Do you think that was something that McGinn was probably told to do, or do you think that was something that he just did out of being a leader within the team? Picking up the ball,
seems to do it
calming
nowadays.
everyone down. Yeah.
The other team. The first time I'd ever noticed it or seen it was when we beat Brentford at Villa Park earlier on in the season, and Ashley Young did it for Danny Ings. Because I was thinking, oh no, not Ashley Young, because I'd remembered him missing a few penalties in his first spell, and then Ings took it. I just think it's something that teams do now. Every team seems to do. When suddenly everyone started doing the draft excluder in the wall, there's certain trends that just happen in the Premier League or in football, and someone else holding the ball for the penalty taker just seems to be the new thing. Everyone seems to be doing it now, but I'm not sure he'll take the next one, Ollie Watkins, if we were to get one against Brighton. It's not a great penalty, but he's had such a good season. I feel sorry for him at the moment because we know he always. I feel like he takes it personally when he's not hitting the back of the net, and I don't think it's cost us anything because we've scored straight after pretty much, and if he scores, our goal in the way it happened doesn't happen because that's the way time works, of course. But we've responded to that and kind of not got him out of jail, but they've helped the teammate out by constructing a lovely goal, and it was just Villa just wanted it more than Liverpool. There's in that attack in particular, Villa just wanted it more, and we got our rewards from it. Louise just winning everything. He won headed down one end, and then he ended up with the ball to put the cross in, and it's a pinpoint cross. Douglas Luiz this season has been absolutely. His delivery all season has been really good. His performances have been good, but if you look at his stats, his output in terms of goal scored and assists for the position he played have been very, very good as well. And I think Mings does a good job of distracting Trent Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold is occupied by Mings. He tries to give Mings a little shove as the ball comes in, but he doesn't know that Jacob Ramsey's over his shoulder, and that's what Jacob Ramsey's good at. Again, his numbers now are standing up this season. He hadn't scored many in the first half of the season, but his numbers are starting to stack up now in terms of goals and assists. I think he's got a decent shout of England in the summer as well. But right foot, left foot, Ramsey is a good finisher, and he showed it again because I don't think that's an easy chance. But he's controlled it, got some power behind it, and beaten who's the best goalkeeper in the league. And that's the other thing about Ramsey. A bit like Watkins, he seems to score against the better teams. He scored against Arsenal now, Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle. Ramsey's a good goal scoring option in that midfield, and we know under Emery he's only going to get better as well.
I agree. And did you see the synopsis or the post that Aston Villa had out for Trezeguet's goal at the back post?
It's very similar.
Arsenal? It's almost carbon copy. It's massive. And you mentioned about how time works. So time is an infinite circle, and everything always repeats itself. Or it's just stuck in the matrix then, and that proved it yesterday. But getting on to Ramsey there, you mentioned, what's that? 12 goals in 100 appearances for Aston Villa so far.
Lines.
I had a
lot of them will have been off the bench as well, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the appearances would anyway. I had a conversation with somebody today about Garnacho, and they were trying to tell me that Garnacho was streets ahead and absolutely miles better than Jacob Ramsey. And granted, I said, first of all, it's an apples to oranges comparison considering he's 18 years of age and he's playing in a team whereby he's told to stay outside and he hasn't had any real adversity in his career or whatever. And then what you mentioned there about the Ramsey scores against the bigger teams, that was my point. And there was no rebuttal back to it. And I kind of felt that it made me win the argument, the fact that Ramsey scores against the big teams. Garnacho this season has scored, well, I would say only. He scored against Fulham, he scored against Wolves, I think he scored against West Ham. He scored those in those games. And a lot of those games were not crunch games. Like he certainly didn't score against Liverpool, at Anfield at the back post like that to put us 1-0 up and stuff like that. So I know it's an apples to oranges comparison between the two because they're going to have completely different trajectories in their career regardless of what happens. But what I'm getting at here is that there's been rumors that he's been that the Gareth Southgate is looking at him for an England squad. And I genuinely believe that if you're going to bring a Curtis Jones into that squad, you might as well bring your Jacob Ramsey in there, because they offer you something very similar, and they offer you goals. And it's, if you're going to experiment within giving out England caps, I think it's a fair shout to say that he should be in there, because there aren't too many better under 21-year-old English players playing in midfield in the Premier League on their day than Jacob Ramsey at this moment in time. And I'd be accused of having carrot and blue glasses, because he's not the finished article, and there are some days when he is out of it. But if you're going to give these guys a go, like people are talking about Alex Scott from Bristol, it's a Bristol City in the Championship,
that's
maybe
not going to
getting
happen
it.
yet.
That's not going to happen yet. He's not even better than Jacob Ramsey. There's a lot of that stuff out there, and but I'm just saying that, we should be proud of what Jacob Ramsey has done. He's had some ups and downs this season, but the ups have been absolutely huge, as you mentioned, against big teams. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do over the course of the next 2 to 3 years under Unai Emery, because he's really bought into this.
Yeah, it comes down to, again, look at McGinn, Louise, and Ramsey. So that was a midfield that was taking a bit of flack. I think we knew they were all good players, but it just wasn't working having those three together. But Unai Emery's found a way, and this is what good managers do, found a way of getting all three of them into the team and allowing all three of them to do the things that they're good at. And I think we had a snapshot of that yesterday. Louise with that cross, getting on the ball recoveries. I mean, Louise, to be honest, did everything yesterday that you want your central midfielder to be able to do. McGinn kind of played a bit more in that hybrid striker role yesterday before the substitutions came in. But again, he's just busy. He's just involved in the game, and he's shown that he's got a lot more to his game than people would have thought. And Ramsey being in the goals and the assists now, that's what you want to see. I mean, and when Jack was coming through, Jack at probably a similar age to Jacob Ramsey, he was lovely to watch, brilliant to watch, but he didn't get the output. The goals and the assists weren't really there probably until the second season in the Championship. With Jack, even though he was a sensational player, you weren't seeing the output, albeit Jack was playing in a much poorer team in his defence, and there was a lot more expectation of him. But Jacob Ramsey now, all three of those midfielders I've just mentioned, and when you throw Boubacar Kamara in there as well, they're just all really good footballers, all got certain facets of the game that they're really good at. And Emery has found a system and found a way to make actually midfield one of our strongest areas, whereas under Gerrard, I would have said the midfield was probably the weakest, but I think they were all hamstrung because they were all having to do things that weren't their strong suits, weren't the things that they were good at in the game. You think of Louise having to play as a number 6. Smith did it with him as well, to be fair, and he had ups and downs in that position, but it wasn't his strongest position. He swapped McGinn and Ramsey over towards the end of his tenure, Gerrard, and Ramsey was playing right as a right number 8, although he still had to cover the fullback off, so he just wasn't able to make those driving runs and do the things that he was good at, get in the box. And we all know what happened with McGinn, absolutely thrown under the bus under Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
Now that midfield so strong that if we sign anyone, and we will obviously sign a midfield player in the summer, it's going to be difficult for them to get in that team, I would say, because I think those 4 that I've just mentioned, they're all exceptional players, but it would be great to have those options, won't it?
Absolutely. And let's say we get Europe, we're going to need options regardless. We're in the transitional phase, and what I mean by that is we're in a transitional phase from Unai Emery has played pretty much the same 14 players, I would say, since he came into the team, since he came into the club. Maybe 15 players, have been regularly starting for Aston Villa. So that's been huge. There have been times when we've looked at the bench and we've seen 2 goalkeepers. We've seen that. We've seen Seb Revan, we've seen Travis Patterson, we've seen we've seen Caden Young, all these guys on the bench. That's brilliant. That's fine to have those young players in there. I hope with the best will in the world that we don't see 2 goalkeepers on the bench throughout the course of the next season.
Won't say that.
I hope maybe one of those but I hope there comes a point as well sometime during the season whereby we can maybe rest a McGinn, or we can rest a like Bailey is almost nearly has to start at times for us, because when we try and change it up, we look there and the cupboard is bare at times, so I'm okay. I think there'll be 2 midfielders brought in this.
I think there'll be a central player who can perhaps play wide like McGinn and Ramsey do, but they'll be that kind of player that plays in Bailey's and Traore's position, basically.
I think there'll be two central midfielders brought in there. I think somebody like Guendouzi and maybe somebody then an older player maybe that can come
Seen
in
some
and dictate the
Ceballos
style
stuff
of play,
recently on a free, which would be
or
a
maybe even
smart
a Danny
pickup on a free.
Parejo. Yes, I think like that. I think that there will be smart purchases in there along with the big swings as well. I think obviously there'll be a 9. I think that there'll be that there'll probably be a winger brought in as well, so we can change this up from a tactical point of view. But we're getting ahead of ourselves with that. What you mentioned with regards to the midfield was that has become our strength, and even Leander and Donker coming
He's
on,
perfect as a
he just
squad player.
really
Perfect.
fills in. Yeah, doesn't he? He really fits in. And he was fantastic. He's been fantastic when he's plugged that gap when needed under Unai Emery. So absolutely, and all the post-season kind of look backs and reviews of the team will be the biggest difference. Will be the difference between number one, our defense, how solid it became under Unai Emery. Only 4 goals conceded from play. I think there's some ridiculous stat I saw it today. 4 goals conceded from play in 13 games or something like that. I can't remember what it is. Mings and Kanza looking like world beaters. Ashley Young being revitalized as well since Unai Emery came in. Luke, the rotation of our left backs, and obviously we're probably not going to have Moreno for the last game of the season, which is a bit of a bummer. But that's also something that we can hang our hat on as well. The structural stability from a defensive point of view, and I suppose the organizational makeup of the team has been fantastic under Unai Emery. And if we can get it really clicking up top for more than just Ollie Watkins like we've seen it so far, that's that's something that I think he will look at, and I think that's something Unai Emery will have his head in the books for over the course of this summer.
Yeah, thanks Ken M, by the way, for donating £2 to us for no reason. Always appreciate. Starting to claw back the beer money for yesterday. Max Stokes being tight, not getting around in, starting to claw back all the beers I had to buy for Max Stokes from Villa on tour yesterday. Right, where were we? A few people were asking about the penalty, but by the way, before we went off on a massive transfer tangent saying why wasn't Konate sent off, because of the double jeopardy thing, because he made a genuine attempt to play the ball, even though he didn't get it. It's you can only be yellow carded for that. You can't be sent off because it's the double jeopardy rule. You can't if you give away a penalty and you've tried to get the ball, you don't get sent off. If he'd done and made a deliberate action, he would probably got a red card because that would have been a genuine goal scoring opportunity. But I think they changed a few years ago those rules. So yeah, no red card for Konate. That's absolutely fair enough. But Villa continued to control things. Liverpool didn't really have a chance in that first half. I felt relatively secure and in control. I don't remember Liverpool venturing towards that away end too many times in the first half. And we nearly score again by a well worked set piece. Ramsey on the move and could have possibly squared it, but I think it would have been difficult. But it's a good save from Alisson. But again, that's something that's changed in the second half of the season. Austin McPhee's given a bit more power, given a bit more room to direct and do the set pieces the way he wants. And Villa have had lots of clever routines this season, and that was another one. And again, Louise with the delivery just timed the pass, the way of the pass to perfection.
Yeah, but some of the best business we've done is not selling Douglas Luiz as well.
I'd resign myself to him going because he wasn't playing. I just thought, why is he going to stay? He'll be glad he stayed now because he's having a great time and he'll probably win the Player of the Year award next week. But he's been brilliant. We could have lost him. We could have lost Tyrone Mings as well under the previous manager. And these players now are playing at the top level. I'd say those two have been our two best players this season. Absolutely. And at the start of the season, we genuinely could have lost both of them because of the actions of the manager at the time, and it would have just been a complete travesty. But Villa didn't go 2-0 up, but there was a bit of a talking point with Mings and a red card. I think because he's got the ball first, I think that saved him. I don't think it's great. Look, you could see visibly the marks on Gakpo's chest. There's no malice in it. There's no intent whatsoever. But I can see why the Liverpool fans were saying it should be a red card. But I think the fact he got the ball, he did try and stop himself. He couldn't stop himself, and he's ended up raking Gakpo's chest. So it's one that probably, if it happened the other way around, we'd be saying there was a potential red card too. I can see why people are saying that. But I think the fact that he has got the ball first and he has made a genuine attempt to pull out, I still don't think it's great. But I don't think it's a red card. But I can see why the Liverpool fans are complaining about it.
For me, I think it's one of those ones that VAR went with the on-field decision.
Yes, that probably helped.
If there was a red card, it wouldn't have been overturned. That's what I think. I think
We have this discussion
we've said
every
this a
week,
couple of
don't we?
times. Yeah. And I'm kind of okay with that. I'm okay with that because that's the definition of clear and obvious. You know, if there's something like that, and the referee deems it to be a yellow card in the moment, and he gave the yellow card, and then VAR looked at it, and then it was a case of we're going to back this on-field decision here because we can't clearly see any massive malice within it there. Now, if he had followed through with the foot and ended up knocking him to the floor and continuing with the foot down onto the floor,
Well,
we're
people are saying
talking
in the
6-game
comments, and I
ban.
think it's valid. They had one on skip the other week, and that was worse. And the Liverpool fans were saying that wasn't
Luka Dean's kick.
The kick, yeah,
the kick Luka Dean got in the head.
So there has been worse in recent weeks, and if Liverpool fans, if they're not complaining about the skip one, then I don't think they can have too many complaints about the Mings one in all this because the skip one was worse.
But I think I suppose with the Howard Webb coming out recently in the Monday Night Football and looking at VAR and stuff like that, I think it's probably fair to say there the VAR, they had the conversation, and whatever nicknames or whatever love names they called each other when they were on the microphones, didn't like that. That to me sounded that made
was it the general or something? Have I imagined
the ledge?
The ledge. That
one
was
of them was called the ledge. And I was like,
it did. His name was, to be fair, Ledge was kind of short for whatever his second name was. I think you just about get away from it. I think they left that in on purpose. I think they're trying to show we're just real. We're real human beings here. We're just lads doing our job. I think there was an element of that with what they were doing. So Villa go in 1-0, and let me tell you, that concourse at half time was I've never seen anything like it. Anyway, it took me about 10 years to get to the toilet. It was just absolutely crazy. All the chants down there, beer being thrown around. Villa fans just jubilant spirits. The last away of the season, and my God, after the second half of last season and the first half of this season, all those that go every week to the away games, they deserve to have a party. And they'll have had some great days in the second half of the season under Unai Emery, and great people. They fully deserved to have those times. But the concourse was absolute madness. At half time, the hottest concourse I've ever been in my life as well. It was very, very hot. Bit of a contentious one in the second half then, because I can genuinely see why they're annoyed about their goal being disallowed. It's not often the referee gets called to look at the screen for an offside. It's very, very subjective. The rules are very ambiguous, aren't they? So has Concert tried to do what he's done? Probably not. But he's in my opinion, look, he's made a deliberate attempt to try and play the ball. I don't think he's connected with it in the way he wanted to, but he has made an attempt to play the ball. So I think they've got a right to be annoyed about that offside, in my opinion. No, you're not having it.
I don't care.
No, I don't care. But I'm trying to just be.
Oh yeah. So we have to be objective.
I'm trying to be fair about it. That if that had happened to us, I'd be saying he's made an attempt to play the ball there. He's interfered with play. But we have been the wrong end of that kind of thing. That Rodri one against Man City was the worst thing. One of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah. My thing here is my thing with this is in real time, and I didn't have the volume on when I was watching it. Second the header comes back off Konza, I said, yeah, that makes Van Dijk offside. I didn't have the whole, did he mean to play it? What was his intention when he played the ball again? We kind of go back to the Mings piece here again, with regards to trying to referee from players' minds, Minority Report style stuff, So at the end of the day, when the ball was headed down, it hits off Konza, it comes back to Van Dijk, and then he becomes in an active phase of play. Therefore, he's offside. That was my view on it at the time. Not to mention that the ball comes back, hits Gakpo on the hand, and then he sticks it in the back of the net. So, I
think they should, if they were going to disallow it for something, disallow it for the handball, I think.
Well, it was so funny because I did turn on the commentary after he went to the screen, and it was at that point there they were talking definitely about a handball. Now in the top left hand corner of the screen it said VAR are checking for an offside, and then obviously when John Brooks calls it as an offside, when he does come back from the screen. But I suppose, look, do we really want to get into the refereeing of what what the intent of somebody was with regards to something like that? That becomes really ambiguous.
That's what I'm saying. Just give the handball
from that point of view.
Yeah,
I
easy.
suppose. Yeah, you could have given the handball.
It's the easy option, isn't it? I just think it's ambiguous the offside as a lot of them can be, but just give the handball if you're going to disallow it for something. So that would just been the easy way to do it. I guess the offside was before the handball, and they've decided that they'll look at the offside first because it happened before the handball. But I think if we'd have lost that, we'd have been a bit annoyed by it for the offside. But I do think there's probably a handball in there. But then who knows what handball is nowadays? But if it hits your hand before you score, even if it's accidental, that gets disallowed, doesn't it? It's handball. So it's handball.
Yeah. I think so.
Get us on VAR.
And the small Sean says here, when you start refereeing somebody's intent, then do you have to take into account that he was intending to play the ball based on the person being offside behind him, and that person being offside in the initial phase of play, and would he have played it? Because if that person was onside, it's an absolute minefield when you start refereeing intent.
Van Dijk's not the one who's headed it across initially, is it?
But he's behind him and he's offside.
He wasn't doing it. So. It's weird, isn't it? Look. We should probably sit here chat all day about the various ramifications.
They make a rod for their own back, though, really, with a lot of those ambiguous rules. If somebody's offside,
the rules need to be clearer. So just saying,
maybe everybody just needs to be onside.
Saying he has to have made a deliberate attempt to play the ball. Just say if he plays the ball, he's either offside or he's not. Just choose it one way. None of this, clear and obvious, deliberate. You just like you say, setting up a rod for your own back there. People are always going to be able to question it because the wording of it all is not right. The FA or PGMOL or whoever to go through all the rules, just make the wording clearer because then there's no question over these kind of things. They need to go through the rules that they've got and change the wording of some of them because at the moment it is ambiguous and it's unclear, and clear and obvious needs to go because that's a load of bollocks. It's just a complete load of rubbish. Clear and obvious. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything clear. Yeah. Something that's clear and obvious to me might be completely different to you. Like it just doesn't make sense, does it? But anyway, we got away with it, which is what we all wanted. And then I got myself. I've never done this at a football match. I got myself embroiled with a Liverpool fan. He was offering me outsiders. Never happened to me before. It never happened to me at a football match. But after that offside, he took a dislike to me for some reason. So I had a bit of that with the Liverpool fan. In the away end, I've always criticised people that spend the whole game doing that, but I did have a minute myself or 2 minutes myself yesterday with a Liverpool fan had taken a strong dislike to me for some reason after that disallowed goal.
There's that guy from the TV.
I genuinely don't think it was that. He just taken a dislike to me for some reason. So what happened then? I've mentioned Luca Dean actually, so it was probably a surprise. Luca Dean and Cash started. I thought Cash might start, but I was surprised to see Luca Dean start. I don't know whether you saw it. He looked quite annoyed when he came off. I thought he was having a good game, in fairness to him, being critical of him at times, but I thought he was having a good game yesterday. But Emery had in his mind to make that change for whatever reason. I'm not going to question Emery, but he did look a bit aggrieved to be coming off Luca Day.
Yeah, I think it was. So I think that it was coincidental that he just gone down holding his back prior to that, and he was coming off anyway. I think what happened, I thought he was very good, don't get me wrong, but I think it was I think it was pre-prescribed. Yeah, I think it was pre-prescribed to bring on Moreno, maybe up the tempo at that stage. We were 1-0 down. So we were 1-0 up, and it was probably a case of let's try and get Moreno hammering that place that Alexander-Arnold wasn't, so that maybe we could pull Alexander-Arnold back out of midfield again, because they were getting a bit of an upper hand in the second half in midfield. Fabinho was kicking people up into the air all day. Henderson was getting on the ball. Jones was getting on the ball. And I think maybe, for us to try and control that left flank, like they were controlling their left flank, because I thought Cash was okay, but I thought that, he needed to come off at some stage because Diaz was running right at him all day long, and he had zero protection from Bailey all day. Zero.
It's a tough one for Cash. I don't think he had a bad game, but he hasn't played very much in the last 6 weeks. Diaz even in the flesh. I've seen him in the flesh before, probably, but I felt closer to him yesterday. I thought he was brilliant, Luis Diaz. I've got to say, considering he's been out for so long as well, you couldn't tell. He's absolutely electric.
So I can understand why there were pre-prescribed substitutions, the two of them. I like the way that he brought on Ashley Young to solidify that wing. And what I think as well, it was a case of, we had our outlet ball with Bailey on that right hand side, that pace ball. By taking him off, bringing Young on there, solidify that wing where Diaz was having a go at Cash, bring on Moreno, then gives us that outlet ball, that carrying ability, that ability to be able to push somebody back on the left hand side that we didn't have with Dina. So I can understand it as well, and I think it was pre-prescribed. I think when he was bringing on Ashley Young for Bailey, he almost nearly had to bring on Moreno for Dina as well, to be able to create that ball carrying ability and that pace effect on the counter attack.
But he got ruined, didn't it? Because Moreno got injured. But we were trying to solidify the
and I
right
think that
answer.
killed us.
Yeah, it did. We had very little of the ball from that moment. Now, you could say it was because of the subs that Liverpool made, and it was that what their subs was what I feared may happen. In all honesty, you got people coming on and playing their last game. People who've been really good players for Liverpool over the years, won a lot of trophies for them, been as part of a really successful side. It's gonna get the crowd up, and Liverpool dominated the game from that period. But I do think had we been able to operate the way we wanted to, because I think there would have been space for Moreno, and he'd have exploited that space and being able to come forward. And then I think Luiz or Kamara, whoever was playing on the left of the two, would have been able to would have kind of tucked in. You'd have got it would have just there'd been space for Moreno and Ramsey to drive into, but we had to play Ashley Young there. Moreno ended up going off injured, and this is where not just because Liverpool were bringing on heroes, like I've said, people that were really going to get the crowd up, and Liverpool dominated the game from that point forward. But it shows that we're and you'd expect us to be. No one expected us to be pushing for Europe, but in these games against these teams with the 5 subs, we haven't got enough to change it. We had our pre-prescribed subs that we've just mentioned, but then something went against us and a player got injured, and we couldn't shore it up in the same way. We had to bring an attacking player on, and we had to shove Ashley Young across to left back. So it disrupted what we wanted to do, but we just haven't got the options to change it off the bench, or if something goes awry, something goes against the plan, we haven't got enough on the bench to change it and be able to operate in the same way. And I think that's what happened yesterday, in all honesty.
And absolutely. I think that's exactly what happened. We lost a bit of shape.
We lost control.
Composure. We lost control on the ball. We lost control. Our pass completion percentage wasn't brilliant all game, but it was at its highest at the moment that Moreno went off. So we had 74% pass success rate, which isn't great, but a lot of that came down to the fact that Leon Bailey only has 60% pass rate. Emi Martinez touched the ball and had touched the ball the most of any Aston Villa player. I think he had the most passes. When your goalkeeper has the most passes and only has a 60% pass rate as well, that's going to bring everything down. But what I'm getting at here is that when Moreno went off with a 74% pass rate, we finished the game on a 66% pass rate. So we dropped 8% in that, 33 minutes, including stoppage time, that Moreno was off the field, because we did lose that shape. And we lost that shape, not because Young went to left back, but I think we lost that shape because when Buendia came on, we just got nothing from him, I thought. And as little as Bailey did during the game, I just felt that at the time I thought it was the right substitution, but hindsight is 2020, and after the game I was like, didn't really like the contribution that Buendia gave, albeit he ran around the field. For me, it turned out not to be the right substitution after a while. I think
we lost McGinn up alongside Watkins as well. Yeah. I don't think that helped. McGinn had to go back and be like basically Ashley Young Matty Cash would come inside, and McGinn would be the one dropping in when we were defending. But we lost McGinn as an outlet in attack, and I think picking up the ball in the tight spaces and keeping hold of it, that was what McGinn was very good at in those positions. We just didn't have any control. But Buendia and Watkins, for whatever reason, it just wasn't sticking when the ball came on the attack. We just couldn't keep hold of it. And there was a moment later on in the game where we picked Liverpool's pocket, and Buendia made the wrong decision, held onto the ball a little bit too long, and that was a really good chance gone. But I just knew, you knew Firmino was going to score. It felt like everyone around me, we were all saying it. It just felt inevitable that he'd score in his last game. He took that goal very, very well, but we just couldn't really get out. We didn't have an out ball. I think we brought Duran on to try and maybe give ourselves an out ball, but that didn't really work. either. Martinez started to kick long, as
Martinez, no.
someone said in the comments, but I think he had to, because early on in the season, Liverpool were that side who you just were like, they look like they're running through a treacle this season. They've always been such an energetic side, but this season they look tired. They did not look tired yesterday. They worked very, very hard. It was Liverpool back in the second half. They were back to their pressing best, and we just couldn't get out. And it did feel like a goal was inevitable. But then when you see 10 minutes of stoppage time, you really, really start to fear the worst. The crowd was up from Liverpool, but I got to say I was really impressed with us in that last 10 minutes. It felt like 10 days, but I thought considering we'd let that goal in as well, and heads really could have dropped, and it's a hard place to go. They've still only lost one game at Anfield this season, by the way, Liverpool, despite the fact it feels like they've been off for a lot of the season. They have only lost one game at home all season. The way we saw out that 10 minutes after conceding is a real plus, and I think that's what makes it a really, really good point in the end, the fact that there was that 10 minutes of stoppage time and we rode it out.
And we rode it out due to leadership at 3 different levels of the field. Obviously, goalkeeper being a leader, Emi Martinez, say what you like about him. I think he holds everything, and he kind of, I don't mind him being that time waster. I don't care if he's got a reputation for it. I really don't care if he's got a reputation for it. He's not going to get sent off for time wasting.
I'd say that.
There's no ref in the world is going to send him off for time wasting. But like Liverpool fans were, and Jurgen Klopp, like he got right under Jurgen Klopp's hat. And I'm going to have a bit of a crack off Klopp, because I know Klopp knows exactly what he's at. But like Klopp is there, and Klopp, like for a man who's just been, who's essentially was in the stand. First of all, touchline bans are stupid. He's there and he's mic'd up, and he's able to run down to the dressing room at halftime. It means nothing. But Klopp's above in the stands for disrespecting a referee and intimidating a referee, and essentially, the sense of entitlement that Klopp has. And don't get me wrong, Klopp's a fantastic manager. He's absolutely brilliant. And I said this in a tweet last night. I don't think he handled that last night. I don't think he handled that game really well at all, because he wasn't on the bench. And I'm willing to stand by it. The fact that, he comes out, he had about 19 minutes, I think, in stoppage time between the first half and the second half, or 18 minutes plus. In 8 minutes in the first half, 10 minutes in the second half. If you've got the strikers to the level that he has, and you can't score in 118 minutes of football against a team that's missed a penalty. You can't beat a team that's missed a penalty, and the only way that you can kind of wriggle out of it in a post match is to say, "Oh well, they were time wasting."
I got to say, I thought he was a little bit tongue in cheek in that interview. He was saying it with a smile on his face. Usually he's a bit more rattled. I felt like he was being quite jovial and quite light-hearted. That the interview I saw anyway. That was what I felt from it. You're right. The touchline ban is a load of nonsense. I don't know how much it impacted the game. Really I think in the first half, Liverpool were flat, like they were missing something, and maybe it was him on the sideline. But I just thought Villa were really good in the first half. Really efficient with the ball. Really efficient without the ball. It's probably the second half of the second half, it became tough. It became really hard for us, but we still got to 90 minutes winning the game 1-0. It's a real shame we couldn't have held on. It would have been a brilliant 3 points to go to Anfield and win 1-0 at this stage of the season. But the other thing is, Liverpool still has something to play for. We've taken something from that game against the Liverpool side that's won. I think they've won 7 in a row going into that game. People, they were still looking for Champions League. It was still on their horizon. It was still possible, and we've taken that away from them pretty much. It's still an absolutely brilliant result for Villa. We could have only dreamed of going to Anfield earlier on in the season. Even if they were on one of their bad runs, we'd have still got absolutely pumped earlier on in the season. But Unai Emery is just chatting.
You're a manager who would have wanted us to get pumped at Anfield.
Yeah, there's a few Gerrard songs in the away, and just a few Gerrard.
I didn't hear them.
There was a couple.
I'm not there yet with that. I can have a crack off him as a joke in a podcast like
I thought he might be there. I was surprised he wasn't there. In all honesty,
but is he not in the Forest backroom team at the moment?
Gerrard.
Yeah, is he not helping out Steve Cooper?
Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard was doing some work with Forest at some stage. I don't know whether it was only once or twice.
Was he? That seems a bit weird when Cooper was under a bit of pressure.
I'm going Googling that
immediately. I saw he was linked with the job at one point, but he can't be.
Talk amongst yourselves there.
No
everybody.
Chance. No, you've got that wrong. I'd be shocked if that was right.
Let's see.
I bet you the first round in Dublin that's wrong.
He
was linked with the job. Adam's saying he can't see anything. He's been looking. Oh, someone in the comments has said he was with Cooper at Forest. What does that mean?
I think he came in. Maybe he just came in and did some sort of training sessions with them or something like that, because they coached together.
Maybe he did a bit of a Paul Lambert. What are you saying? That this happened recently or in the past? I thought you were talking like in the last.
I heard something.
I thought you were talking in the last couple of weeks.
He wasn't officially on their backroom team or anything like that.
I thought that was what you were saying.
He coached with Steve Cooper at Liverpool's academy. So I remember someone said to me that he did some. I can't find it.
No, I believe you. That sounds right. I thought you were saying though he's on the backroom staff of Forest at the moment as like a coach or something.
Sorry,
and I was thinking,
no.
Yeah, that's absolutely incorrect. So,
no.
This is how we started the show, isn't it? We started the show in this way. We're ending it in this way. I think we're both right, but your wording was ambiguous, so it made me think you were saying he wouldn't be. I thought you were saying he wouldn't have been at the game yesterday because he'll have been at Forest sitting in the dugout with Steve Cooper. I thought that was what you were saying, but he definitely won't have been doing that. But I'll get the first round in anyway. We should probably explain about the Dublin thing actually for those that don't know about it actually. So I'll let you explain it because you've already done it once. I liked what you did. You made it out as if your channel was going to end, and I knew what was coming because I knew what the announcement was, and I still thought, he didn't tell me it was a farewell to his channel that we were doing this thing in Ireland. Go on then. I'll let you explain.
So you guys might remember that we went over to myself and Paddy went over to the Forest game there at the end of March, and you know what? You know when you have the best conversations is when you've got a few points in. And we met Dan and we met a couple of other people when we were over there. And myself and Dan then got talking afterwards, and myself and Paddy then a few more libations, and we said, you know what? We're going to put on a big Aston Villa meetup and big live podcast essentially in Dublin on the 9th of September, which is International Weekend. So we decided we were going to do it, and then next thing we said it to Dan. Dan goes, I'm there. I'm absolutely there. And there's a couple of other people coming yet that we haven't announced yet, Dan. So just in case you announce it.
I spoiled it. I didn't know I wasn't allowed to say anything. I spoiled it in the first place, and you kind of made a panicked announcement afterwards because I tweeted that I was looking forward to it.
It was a secret. But so we decided we go with it, and I came home and I said, well, let's have a look and see what it is. And Ireland being the place that it is, we are able to find a place in Dublin, and so essentially we're putting on a kind of a live. We're terming it as a live podcast, but it's more or less an Aston Villa meetup. Yeah. We've got a venue sorted in the wonderful Laughter Lounge in Eden Quay in Dublin, and we've got an after party sorted out afterwards and everything. And essentially, we're trying to get as many Villa fans as we possibly can. There's actually some people coming over from the UK that have already bought tickets for it, which is absolutely mind-blowing and amazing. So it's going to be a bit of crack. It's going to be really good, If anybody here is listening that's interested in it, maybe wants to come over and make a weekend in Ireland for it. Ireland are playing the Netherlands the day after. I did wonder if
Ireland would be playing.
Yeah, Ireland are playing the Netherlands in Dublin the day afterwards on the Sunday. So it's Saturday, the 9th of September. On Eventbrite, you can search for the tickets on Eventbrite as well. That's exactly it,
Neil will tweet it again tonight after this.
I'll tweet it again, exactly.
I honestly cannot wait. But I love Dublin. I think I've been 3 times. This has been my 4th time in Dublin. I think absolutely love the place. Not been for 8 years or so. Now, really, really looking forward to that. It'd be great to see as many Villa fans there as possible, both from Ireland and from wherever else. If you fancy getting the flight in, get yourself down there, it'll be absolutely brilliant. Like Niels,
I think somebody messaged me. They're coming from Malaga, somewhere like that. They're coming up for the weekend. But and you know what? I must thank everybody who's bought a ticket so far, because we have had to charge for it, and I it's just Ireland is an expensive place to run anything at the moment, insurance wise and stuff like that. So we had to charge for the tickets, but we've sold 55%, nearly 60% of the tickets already are sold.
It's always a relief when you do that. We've done live events in the past, and you think, to be fair, our tickets were free, and you always think we've put these tickets on sale. If no one turns up, it's going to be really, really embarrassing. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we'd still have a good time actually, even if no one turned up, but we'd be out of pocket. That wouldn't be great. But it's going to be really, really good. That is. To have even be 55-60% already. Look at Adam getting the barcode.
Oh, look at that!
He doesn't. I mean, that barcode could lead absolutely anywhere. There's no guarantees that takes you to the right place. But Adam has put something up at the top of the screen
Look
now.
at that.
I don't know. You do
Wait a
get your
minute.
camera on it, don't you?
I'll tell you what that does now.
Try
So
it.
look live.
Oh, someone scanned the QR code. I've had a notification.
That's me.
Did it work?
There we go. Look
oh my
at that.
days. Bates technology.
Jesus.
Absolutely. There we go. Because Oaksy said, asked,
Yeah.
are we going to film it? I don't know. I don't know the answer to anything.
It is. We're yeah. I'm looking for a videographer to film it as well, because it's going to be a bit of crack. There's it's essentially going to be a day out, more so than anything else. So we will be filming it. We will be making content out of it. We will be releasing it at some stage in the future. But as I say, it's more so a lot during COVID. Look, I will be honest with you. During COVID, when a lot of Irish fans who would have gone to games, would have gone over religiously. Even Paddy, that does the podcast with me, would have gone over religiously. A lot of those guys haven't been able to get back over as much as they would have liked. Even meetups that we've been having, that we would have had previously, it still hasn't really kicked into gear again. So essentially, we decided we put a match to the torch paper here and try and reignite it again, because there's tons of Villa fans here in Ireland. Like I live in a place called Galway in the west of Ireland, and I'm chairman of the Connacht Lions Club here. We don't meet up as much as we should or we used to, but it's the home of Eamon DC, and there could be 300 Villa fans in Galway City alone, and in Dublin in Ireland, like there's I'd say you could be talking 1,000, 1,200 Villa fans there. So there's a huge population of Villa fans over here, and it's all about just trying to, during the good times, try and reignite it again and get things going. Because Paddy was telling me stories of the mid 90s and late 90s when he started coming over as a teenager to watch games and stuff like that. And some of them, I don't even believe half of them, but he said that they were just the best fun ever, because every second person was a Villa fan because of all the Irish connections. And it'd just be great to have that back again, so it'd be fantastic. So hopefully this is this will help out, and we'll try and get people together again and try and reignite it. So
I mean, Paddy might not be there because I've talked to him about some of his contacts when you were over my way. He might be on the Chelsea backroom staff. Paddy, he might not be able to come to his own event with Pochettino going to Chelsea. I'm interested to see if Paddy makes the backroom stuff. Look, it's going to be really, really good. These kind of things always are. We've done a couple of lives, the Villa View, just at Villa Park, just for the night, and they were brilliant. So many great people. Great to get Villa fans together. This is going to be something else in Dublin. So if you do fancy coming over, scan the barcode at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
I haven't booked my flight in my hotel yet though, so don't take all the flights and the hotels though, because I still need to sort mine out. It's going to be so big. It's so big. I don't even know who one of the special guests is. Neil won't tell me who it is, so I don't know who that is. And there's a very special person coming with me as well. So it's definitely worth coming over. I mean, you talk about Villa and Ireland, and we've completely gone away from the game here. So if you're wondering what we're going on about, you're probably best you turn off at this point if you come in to hear stuff about the Liverpool Villa game yesterday now, because we've moved away from that. But we were out last week, me, Simon and Max, and then me and Simon went on to Albert Schloss. Max went home, but we were in the queue, and there's just this group of Irish Villa fans in the queue with us that had been over from the game, that obviously they watched Villa on tour and watched the Villa View and whatnot. And we started telling them that we were coming over, and they were genuinely excited. Like the Irish and the Villa, they do have a special link. Like my first World Cup was 1994, and obviously England weren't in it. And I remember sitting there supporting Ireland because there was 4 Villa players playing for Ireland in that 94 World Cup, and they beat Italy 1-0. And of course, a Villa player, Ray Howson, scored. He was just brilliant. So there's always been that affinity. I mean, that's why you support Villa, isn't it? So it'd be great to come over and celebrate just all being Villa fans, really.
The small Sean is after giving me a great idea for content.
Oh, mate, I'll smash that. I'm not worried. That doesn't worry. That doesn't worry me. If Small Sean's coming, if I get it right though, Small Sean has to have
a shot for every player number that Dan doesn't know. I remember listening to that podcast you did and being apps. I remember there was at some stage, there was times I was just doing this, listening to the podcast. Anybody was watching me as I was walking on the road must have thought I was gone absolutely barmy, but that was impressive.
My only concern is that if I'm coming on the Friday, trying to do a podcast the day after having been out on the Friday, because I'm planning on coming in early on the Friday. So that that might be a bit of a concern, the way my hangovers are nowadays at my age, but we'll work with it. We'll see what goes on. Right, we better go now because we want to have a meeting after this and try and sort some stuff out, don't we? So we've done 53 minutes, so it's probably time for us to go. Thanks to everyone that's joined live. I can't see the number of how many are on at the moment, but it feels like there was a lot in the chat. So thank you very much for joining us. Myself and Greg will be doing 1874 over the next couple of days, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Subscribe to the channel with your post notifications on, and you'll know exactly when it's coming out. Give the video a like as well, and then we'll have our preview shows, last ones of the season, obviously at the end of the week as well. 419 people, Adam Skies, saying thank you very much to the 419 that stayed with us. There's probably more before me and Neil started talking about Dublin in September. But yeah, so many lovely people in the chat. Met so many lovely people again yesterday who were very complimentary about all my Villa stuff and football stuff. So thank you very much for that. It's always appreciated. Right then, Neil, let's do our team meeting. Only one thing left to say: up the Villa.